Gillian, thank you for joining us all the way from Amsterdam, and I heard you had a lovely layover in Salt Lake City and Denver, so we really appreciate you being here. So you guys had some pretty big news this morning. Your parent company, Booking Holdings, announced that it's investing $500 million into Chinese ride-hailing company Didi. We have a lot of ride-sharing, ride-hailing news and conversations up here, which makes sense. So I want to know just a bit of strategy and context for this partnership and investment. What is the thinking, and how is this going to impact Booking.com specifically?
Yeah, no, so it has two angles, this investment, right? We've done more investments in China. We're always looking to partner with companies that have, of course, a large Chinese customer base. And also, if you think about Booking, where we really started to work on transportation, rent-a-cars, of course, but also we started Car and Driver, which we offer now in 1,000 cities. So also ride-hailing will become an important part of our strategy, because customers, when they've booked an accommodation, they also need transportation. And they need transportation because they need to understand how is the best way for me to get from the airport to my accommodation, and often that's not known when people travel. Think yourself, if you arrive in Narita Airport in Tokyo, you don't know that it's better to take the train than it is to take a taxi. It's faster and it's cheaper. So there's lots of opportunities for Booking to start thinking about transportation and really see how can we help customers better in giving them these opportunities. And even if they visit an attraction, they might need a ride-hailing company to bring them back to their accommodation.
So, and Didi's raised quite a bit of money. What does this mean for them? I mean, obviously, you have a very global footprint, so what can we expect to see from them?
Yeah, so that, of course, is something that is more complicated for me to answer around the investment, but it's an important strategic investment also for them. Mm-hmm. And that's why they were also very interested to have us as an investor.
Okay. Priceline Group, Booking Holdings is very confusing now. You're Booking.com, Booking Holdings is the parent company, but it was Priceline Group. Can you just tell us a little bit about the rebranding, which happened very recently?
Yeah, no, so for us, of course, that was a big compliment. And I think
you're the favorite child?
Well, I wouldn't say that.
You are the majority of profits, though.
Well, yeah, we're the biggest brand in the group, so it makes a lot of sense.
And I shouldn't have said that because Krista Quarles is here, so I'm sorry, Krista, from Open Table. That's one of the other.
Absolutely. No, but it's important if you think about Booking and the brand and how Booking is known, right? In the US, Priceline is very known, but if you go outside of the US, a lot of people don't know Priceline. And Booking is a brand which is known all over the world. So it makes a lot of sense also as a holding company to carry that brand because it's so known internationally.
What about your brand presence, the Booking.com brand presence in the US?
Yeah, so this is, we're of course also in the US a company that is growing fast. We've been putting a lot of energy into the US for a long time already. And even now we're very focused on, if you think about hotels, we've had for a long time, but now also we're more and more offering homes, apartments and other alternative places and unique places to stay. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't know about us, but we already have 5.5 million listings in homes and apartments all over the world, which grew this year alone 27%. And
this might be a good time to insert Airbnb into the conversation. That 5.5 million listings, which by the way, I saw on the site or on a press release that it's apartments, homes, and other non-hotel listings. What are those? What are other non-hotel listings, like igloos or?
Yeah, well, you have houseboats in Amsterdam,
okay.
Or there's a lot of unique places nowadays where people can stay, and you see also because of social channels where people really share these unique experiences that they have, that the demand also increases and customers are looking for these type of places, and that's also why Booking.com expanded its portfolio from first only hotels to now almost 30 categories we offer to customers. And customers really want to see the breadth of selection and understand what is out there, where can I choose from.
And back to Airbnb, I think a lot of people would find it surprising that you have more listings than the Airbnb platform does. But in terms of brand presence and recognition and appeal, at least in the United States, they have the upper hand. So how do you compete? And what are you doing to raise brand presence here?
Yeah, so a lot, right? So we put a lot of investments into marketing into the US, and also a lot of investment to grow our portfolio in this segment. So we did a big campaign, which we started halfway through May, also to increase the amount of listings we have. So there's a lot of work going into the US to, one, make sure customers understand that we have these type of accommodations, and second, to make sure that we bring all of this supply into Booking.
Are there any differences in, if you just put volume aside, are there any differences in the service for homes and apartments on Booking.com versus an Airbnb? I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of crossover, right, where somebody posts their home or their apartment on Airbnb and on Booking.com and VRBO and you name it.
Yeah.
How do you differentiate?
Yeah, today you do see that, of course, even homeowners, they have a distribution strategy. But I think if you think about Booking, then we don't charge customer fees, right? Which is something that we never did in our business, but also for homes and apartments, that is not something we do, for instance. So that's a big differentiator from Airbnb. We also don't charge fee to our partners. We only charge a commission after a customer have stayed. So it's very transparent to customers, because we want to make sure they understand what they're paying, right? And then there's no surprises once they arrive. But these are a few of the differences. Then Booking is, of course, a company that operates in 43 languages. We've always built our customer service in-house, because we couldn't find companies to support us in so many languages. And the good thing is, now that we've done that, we can also support these type of partners and customers that book these type of accommodations through the Booking Assistant, which is a bot that we have running to give very fast answers to customers, right? Because they want to know, where can I pick up the key? Can I park my car? All these type of questions. So, and we have that up and running now in English. Already 60% of customers are interacting with that bot. But of course, we're extending that into multiple languages, because often the owner and the customer don't speak the same language. So we need to help in the middle to make sure that people understand what customers are looking for.
So the chatbot also helps people who are booking individual homes and apartments.
Correct.
To basically
Yes.
converse and get information from the owners.
Yes. Yeah, and I think people know that when you travel, there's still so many things that you need to know, right? And it's very important that a company like Booking offers the right support for customers when they need to.
So I want to get back to how you're using AI and talent there, but what else are you going to be offering on the platform? I know I mentioned OpenTable earlier as part of the same umbrella company. Yeah. Are there integrations between those two subsidiaries, and are there other things that are a natural progression for you guys?
Yeah, you see, Booking is changing as a business, right? We started with hotels, then into multiple accommodations, and you see also, because of technology, we're able to help customers much more throughout their trip, right? And there's still, I always say, two main questions that we need to answer for customers. And the first question is, where am I going to go for my holiday? Which is still a pretty complex question for customers. And we also feel that AI in the future can play an important role to make that much more personalized. That we know what customers like, we know where they like to travel, we know who they are, and therefore also are able to help them better and save time, right? Some of the planning people like to do when they prepare, but once you try to make it all work, then often you cannot make it, you cannot fit it all together. And the second question is, what am I going to do once I arrive? And this is where Booking is already making a lot of progress in, where we have attractions already live in 61 cities, right? Where customers can really, with the app, they can just go through the door of the museum, and whenever the day they feel that this day I want to do this activity. And transportation, like I talked about as well, we bought a company called Fair Harbor, which has built software for tours and activities, because people don't realize, but there's still businesses out there that are not really online. So even today, many customers that are online cannot even find these tours and activities. So we're actually actively going to help to bring this segment online together with Fair Harbor, and then our customers can also book these activities.
So it's interesting, because some of what you were talking about sounds a lot like what a product like an Alexa would try to do, and is probably already doing. And I know you're most often asked about Airbnb as a competitor, but on your most recent annual report for the parent company, it of course lists all the competitors, and it's pretty mind-boggling. I mean, it's the typical online travel services that you would think, Expedia and so on. But then you also have search and social networking companies, the Googles, Baidus, Tencent, Amazon, traditional travel agencies, online enterprise travel services, rental car companies, hotel chains. You should look at it. It's amazing.
And
Price comparison sites.
Very relaxed.
Who don't you compete with?
No, and I think that's something that people underestimate in travel. If you think about travel and people make a trip, they need more companies that are involved in that trip, right? It's not like other businesses, you don't see that as strong in travel. Even if you go to a platform like Amazon, you might buy different things that might not always be related to each other. But within the trip, it's all related to the same thing they're going to do. So that makes it complex, but also that's why in this industry you see much more cooperations between companies as well. Of course, also a lot of competition because there's so many elements that play a role, but you also see a lot more cooperation between companies.
Okay, I think we have a question for you over there.
Hey, Gillian, Mark Mahaney with RBC. Let's see, do you think there'll be a day when your alternative accommodations business is actually bigger than your hotel business, within 5 to 10 years? And then could you also talk about China? I know you mentioned the Didi deal, but I think you've been in China organically and through a partnership for multiple years. Just how big is that as part of your business today?
Yeah, so I do think in the future that if you think about homes and apartments will be a bigger business than hotels, just because there's many more of these listings out there. But so this is a segment specifically for booking that will keep growing. If you think about the US, we still have, for instance, a large job to do here. China has been a focus area for booking for already a long time. I think we translated our content in other places in the world in Chinese already, I think over 10, 12 years ago. So outbound, we already played an enormous role to bring Chinese customers to other locations in the world, which we are continuing to do so. And also inbound customers that are traveling into China. And we also made a lot of investments in China. So we also have a lot of people on the ground from booking in China. We have a big customer care center in China. We have marketing, we have product teams in China and we have lots of strategic partnerships, but also for booking, we have partnerships with banks, we have partnerships with airlines. So for us, China for the future, of course, is strategically enormously important. And we do it through partnerships as the investments that we've made, but also we want to make sure that we keep building the right product for our Chinese customers ourselves as well.
Can you share, by the way, what your market share is in China right now?
No.
Figured. Other questions for Gillian? Raise your hand. All right, if no one has it, feel free to raise your hand whenever. But let me ask you, we talked about AI for a bit. Talent on that front. First of all, where are you? I mean, you have a huge international footprint and you visit, 20 plus countries a year. So I'm sure you've got talent all over the place. But where are you seeing pockets that we maybe don't know about, maybe you don't want to share with us, abroad for talent in the AI space?
Yeah, so if you think about Booking, it's been a data company from the start, right? And therefore the step into machine learning for Booking was already a step that we made a long time ago. And already brought a lot of talent to do that into Amsterdam. Specifically towards AI, we have a strategy, of course, to bring people into Amsterdam as well, but we also acquired a company called Readership from Tel Aviv, and they've built specifically a bot where you can basically say, you can type, well, give me a hotel in Paris, and then slowly the bot will eventually bring you to the right choice for you. So this is a company that we integrated into Booking, and they're developing these tools for Booking customers. So it's both through acquisition, but also ourselves we're developing that talent pool in Amsterdam, Tel Aviv, but also we have people in Shanghai, for instance.
And we talked earlier in the introduction, I mentioned that you've tried to maintain this bottoms-up culture. So as you acquire these startups, you mentioned one in Denver, one in Tel Aviv, and so on. How are you integrating them?
Yeah, it's actually quite nice in Booking because it's a very entrepreneurial culture. We have many small teams that are basically being empowered to build these products for our customers. So often you see when these people are being integrated in Amsterdam, for them it's amazing because it's the culture they like, and also they have now, of course, a very large customer base, which is something that will help them as well to make sure that the products that they build for customers are actually the right ones, because they have enough data to make proof points and to make the steps that they need to do.
Okay. Question over here?
Sure, Stephen Wolf Pereira from Quantcast. Thanks for coming. I'm curious, you are one of the leaders in performance marketing, but you also need to live in a world of walled gardens and major platforms like Facebook and Google. I'm curious, how do you go about understanding your customer, focusing on first-party data and really making sure that you have that direct relationship versus, being kind of confined in the walled gardens?
Yeah. So performance marketing is really how we have grown our customer base. And I think we've always been very good at understanding travel intent. And when there's a high intent, we really understand how to convert that customer onto our platform. More and more we've been investing in other platforms as well, where maybe not the intent is always so clear, but we know that in the future people will travel because they talk about travel, etc. So we're doing a lot of investments as well together with Facebook, YouTube, even through influencers. So there's lots of new channels that Booking is also working on. If you think about incentives that we're offering to consumers as well. So yeah, also there Booking needs to evolve and invest. We do a lot of offline, which is something that Booking in the beginning has never done, which was quite surprising to many people, that we actually build a brand without doing any offline advertising, which I think 5 years ago we realized that that's also an important channel in the mix, right? If you take it all together. So this is something that we're also all over the world doing today.
What kind of offline
yeah, if you see, I don't know if you saw it, but we have there's one spot that we have out there a lot, which is the one mission, we call it. You can watch it on YouTube as well. It's actually made by the people of Booking. It's quite, we gave them a GoPro 2 years ago at one of our events, and they actually started filming their own travel. And always when I show it when I talk about the culture of Booking, because people really, it's so much in their DNA to travel and they want to showcase that. It's really nice to see. So if you have time, go and watch it.
So I think probably most of us feel that the travel industry is something that we understand has been online for a long time, was one of the first industries really to be disrupted by the internet. What misconceptions are there, do you think, about your industry, about Booking.com?
Well, I think one I already mentioned, right? Especially in the US, it's not only Airbnb, it's also Booking. So I think that's something that is probably a misconception today, I would say. And yeah, I think also, I think if you think about travel and the opportunities, and if you think about travel today and how much there's still to do, right, to get this experience right for customers, I think that's also something that people sometimes underestimate. That we're only at the beginning, I think, if you think about all the opportunities that are still out there. And Booking for sure will make sure we keep improving our products to do that.
Okay. Gotta ask you about your own traveling, because you are, like we said, on the road so much of the time. Not just your own travel. Well, let's save the travel tips for the very end, because that's fun. But I want to ask, for as far as managing and leading a company that's so dispersed, how many employees do you have in how many countries?
Yeah, so we have 18,000 people, and we have 200. We have 200 offices in 70 countries.
How do you manage that?
Yeah, like I said, it's mainly, if you think about the culture of Booking is very strong. And if you think about even how we've built up Asia, where we brought talent that we had in Europe over to Asia to really build these offices and these operations there. So you really feel the Booking Blue culture, as we call it, everywhere you go. And it's hard work, culture, but it's very important, because in the end, if you think about Booking, we don't have much, right? If you think about our assets, are really people and servers, but they know how to talk, right? So, but it's
they do actually.
Yeah, they do now. But no, but it's the people really which are so super important, because they are actually building the success. So it's important to invest in that culture.
And you, I mean, you joined the company almost at the inception, pretty early on. So you've kind of grown with the company,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, it's nice to see, and it's nice to see how you can keep your culture with growing a company.
What is the Booking Blue
Well,
culture?
if you think about it, it's very international, right? People are often surprised, for instance, when they visit a company at our scale that it brings them to Amsterdam, which Holland is in 3 hours you're through the Netherlands. So, and mostly you see these companies in big home markets. But for travel, it was a good place to be in, because you have to think about crossing borders from day one. You have to think about different cultures from day one. You have to think about languages, currencies, you name it. So I think you see that back in our culture today. It's extremely diverse as well. We have 130 nationalities working at Booking.com. So these are just a few of the elements that you will find in our culture.
And given that culture and how international your business is, what impact does the current political climate, both in Europe and here and in other parts of the world, have on what you do?
Yeah, so I always say, of course, there's a lot of elements which impact travel. And what we see is that when things happen, then people might change, right? We do see that people continue to travel, but they might make different choices. So they either stay closer to home or they do shorter trips. So you do see that lots of elements in the world have an impact on travel, but often you do see that people keep traveling.
In terms of making acquisitions, having development and various teams in England, over here, in other parts of the world where there are uncertainties politically, has that had any impact so far?
Well, not on Booking so far, but I mean, we have, of course, lots of people in England as well, and it's important if you have employees in a location where things change that you're there to support them. But we have not had issues where we had to close an office, for instance, no.
So your own travel has definitely not died down. You're traveling just as much, I'm guessing, as ever, especially as you guys are striking these new partnerships. What tips do you have for us? What's your travel go-to? How do you I know you have all sorts of, like, as a lot of people who travel often have, your rules, and you don't ever break them about what you pack and what you don't pack, and
yeah, so
how you sleep and all of that.
Yeah, I travel very light because that's important, because often I move from one destination to the other, so you don't want to carry a lot of things with you. I can sleep on planes very well, so that helps, but I'm not sure that...
Do you take anything?
Everybody can. Well, I don't. I only take sleeping pills when I'm on a plane. I don't do it when I arrive at a destination, but on a plane I do, because otherwise it's very difficult to fall asleep. But that's the only place where I do. And yeah, tips. I say it's good to think about using the Booking app and trust technology. Well, trust technology. No, trust technology. And often people are surprised that there are so many choices. And even myself, I always try to pick different type of accommodations. And it's really interesting if you do, because often people pick the accommodation they might know, but it's really great because you'll find some surprising great places to stay.
Have you stayed in a houseboat?
In a houseboat? No, I haven't. Well, I live in Amsterdam, so...
It's kind of, it would be too boring.
Yeah,
right? What's the most interesting property you've stayed in?
Most interesting one, well, I've stayed at so many. But I think, yeah, one time I think I booked, it was a cottage on the beach, so literally on the beach, which my children still talk about because they thought that was just a miracle, right? Yeah.
Sand everywhere.
I thought it was a bit scary in the evening, but okay. But it was nice, yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, Gillian. Safe travels,
yeah,
and we hope
you.
to have you back. Thank you.